Hi, Janice.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
I'm well. Are you ready to talk about six home inspection deal breakers and two that may not be?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is kind of out of my wheelhouse, Janice, because I'm in Manhattan, and most of my cases deal with either condos or co-ops. But I do have some experience either with townhouses or with houses in the outer boroughs. But generally, this feels more like it's kind of something that you're more familiar with. Would you agree?
Definitely. It's definitely a suburban thing. When you purchase a home, they call it out in the burbs, it's definitely something that's included in the home buying process. And it's really important.
Okay, so I'll let you run this one, and I'll just chip in with any sort of twists that might apply or be different for sort of apartment type situations. Before we get started, I want to point out that this one is directly from our blog today, anthonyspark.com. And also, this ties nicely into the book that we recently published, How to Buy Your Perfect First Home, available on Amazon. You ready to go, Janice?
Absolutely. So, are you ready to buy your first home? Your contract, it should include a contingency clause based on this professional home inspection. So, what is a professional home inspection? It's a company that comes in, and that's all that they do is inspect the home for its integrity. Whether that's little things, big things, but it's really important because, for example, in my area in particular, there are a lot of houses that were built in the very early 1900s. So 1914, you may have a house that you're moving into. It's imperative to have a home inspection by a professional, where that may be a little bit different in the city, even though you have some older places. But when you're purchasing your one particular home, it's definitely important to have a home inspection. It's not something you would gamble on. So what is included in a home inspection? Generally, I use the word professional quite a few times because it's these companies, that's all they do. They are home inspection companies. They look for structural items like floors, walls, ceilings, roof, basement. Really, they get in, they look at everything. Have you ever been part of a home inspection?
Yes, mostly
Okay.
from the other side, where I'm the executor selling a property for the surviving family. But yes, we give access and walk through with the inspectors.
Yeah. So, it takes some time. It's a couple-hour process. It seems like they look and pick at everything. But it's great. Like when we bought our house, we went through, it took a couple hours, but you learn things about the house too as you go along you might not have known. They also test, smoke, carbon monoxide detectors, heating, cooling systems. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's just, they look at everything.
I just want to make clear for anyone who's completely new to this process, the home inspector is really looking for things that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Janice, that are substantive, structural, systems. They're not looking for chipped paint or squeaky windows or things like that, or leaky faucets. Really, I mean, maybe I don't know actually on that one, but it's really big things like does the central air work? Is the roof sound? Things like that. Is that about right? Am I making that distinction clear?
It is, but I know that on the home inspection report, it's some 30, 50 pages.
Mm-hmm.
They will put in there the smaller things that they find,
Ah,
just so you're aware.
good to know.
Not necessarily a deal breaker, but they will point that out for your information if they see it.
Very good.
So the article talks about inspection deal breakers, some really big things that could just send up those red flags and say, yep, nope, not happening. So number one is any problem with the home's foundation. There is really no little problem when it comes to the home's foundation because that is foundation. It's significant enough that, it's the basis of the house and what it's built on. So maybe minor issues could be something that could be repaired. But if you have big, significant foundation issues, that's, how much that could cost. And I'm estimating thousands upon thousands of dollars to fix that.
So what happens if there's problems? What is the long-term problem that you might be facing if you end up buying a lemon house that has a bad foundation? I know flooding the basement is one possible issue. Is that in this?
Absolutely. If you have cracks in the foundation, that could be flooding in the basement. But you also have, if your foundation crumbles, everything upward crumbles too. You figure if your foundation goes inward, so does your roof, so do your walls. It's just a setup for
Oh wow.
a big problems down the road. If they came at me with the house that we purchased and said, your foundation is not solid, there's a good chance we wouldn't have moved in because it is pretty big. Number two, bad wiring and other electrical issues. So, back in like I said, the early 19 12. The codes were a little different then. If there were codes, I'm not sure. But they're a little bit different than they are today. The standards of codes, everything's been upgraded to make sure everything is safe. So you might come into a house that the inspection is bad, or I'm sorry, the wiring is bad. Could you imagine how much that would cost to rewire and electrical the whole house? That's a pretty big expense.
This is actually very applicable to Manhattan as well. And the way I measure how important this is we sometimes sell, even condos and co-ops to all cash buyers just because the way the estate shakes out, that's just the most efficient way of doing it for the heirs. And these are professional real estate investors, usually, these all cash buyers. And if they come in and they see bad electricity or bad wiring, they immediately ask for a big reduction in the purchase price. And that to me is the clue that these pros know that these are big problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're safety problems too. So if you feel like you want to overlook that, which would obviously not advised, but think about the safety of it. You have bad wiring through your house. What does that lead to? House fires, problems down the road. It's just not safe. Can it be fixed? I would imagine so. I'm certainly not a professional. I can Google anything and use a screwdriver and duct tape, but I don't think that's going to help the situation. So slow sewer lines. That's the same problem. I think, out here in the suburbs, you've got the sewer lines. We have what is the well sewers, the septic tanks, and then you have some that go to the city. If you have backs up, the example here is a slow drain or backs up into the sink, that could be a problem. So it might not be a problem you could fix with just a plumber coming out or a plunger or a snake. It could be upwards of $50,000 to fix.
Wow.
Yeah, that's huge. And
so this seems to be this seems to tie in. This seems to be something that is not necessarily 100% under your control because it has to deal with lines that go to the street. So I guess the equivalent in an apartment building would be the building-wide systems that are not 100% under your control. You want to make sure that they're in good shape. Otherwise, it's something that, although not in your control, it can certainly affect the quality of your living. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And even though you could be on city water or sewer, it's the homeowner's responsibility to pay to have that fixed. And that's pretty big. That's a big expense. So number 4, black mold. It's a little more than mildew around your shower or, in the tub. Black mold it's huge. It's a sign of major flooding and leaking. I have an interesting story. When we were home buying, we saw a foreclosure. It was a really cool house. It was on the side of a mountain. It was beautiful. And we went in, and at first sight, you could kind of smell something, but you weren't sure. But it looked nice. Basement was huge. It was freshly painted. So to the layperson, you say, "Oh, that's pretty nice." But we happened to open a door and look behind, and unbeknownst to anyone who was just looking, it had flooded about maybe 5-6 feet in the basement.
Yikes!
Right. It was all mold, and the homeowners painted it over it. They just painted. Now, I don't know if you know much about mold, but you just can't paint over mold.
I don't think that's counts as remediation.
No. And I'm telling you, everything has to be removed. So fast forward, we're still looking. About 2 months later, we go back because we're like, you know what? Let's just see how bad it really is. Maybe we can remediate. Fine. We go back. Not only had they not fixed the problem, when you looked inside, the first pictures we took at about 5 feet, the mold had now crept up higher and was almost to the ceiling.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, gross.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
To be inhabited, you would have to completely gut almost everything in most of the house at that point because the mold is just infiltrated. So you could imagine how expensive that would be.
All right.
And on the similar to that would be termites. I know a lot of home inspections that come with the termite inspections. I'm not sure if that's separate or together. That's not something I'm familiar with. But termites eat wood. Houses are made of wood. That's a problem if you have termites.
Yeah.
Can it be fixed? Yes. But
on a similar note,
you really have to look at it.
Yeah, on a similar note, in terms of just of quality of life, if you're in a building, an apartment building, you're going to want to do, as part of your due diligence, you want to review the building's board meeting minutes and so forth, and you want to see you want to see if they're constant. Termites is not so much of an issue in apartments, I don't think, but if there's an ongoing rodent or other pest problem, that's probably a clue that maybe the hallways maybe not as sanitary as you'd like.
Yeah, and it can be expensive to fix. Now, I don't know how that works when you're talking about a co-op, but if you fix the problem in your area, we'll fix the problem everywhere. So it sounds like you're right. It has to be a whole building thing.
Mm-hmm.
So number 6 would be the DIY projects without proof of permit. This happens all the time when you have finished basements, for example. They look really great, but to finish a basement, especially on the burbs, a lot of the townships, you need a permit. And you have to do it correctly. I mean, you have to be able to get out if there's a fire. It's really specific for your safety. So a lot of the times, again, when you're walking through and you see a finished basement, you want to make sure it was permitted and it was done correctly. A, for safety's sake, and B, for you want to be you want to be lawful. Same goes with decks and I'm trying to think what else. Sheds. There's a lot of things,
This is absolutely a common problem in Manhattan as well. It's slightly different formulation. Manhattan, as you know, space is at a premium, so there's a lot of rooms that are illegally cut up, a lot of fake rooms, windowless rooms, like not true bedrooms. Some of them are kind of dangerous, again, for fire safety reasons. You don't want to be involved with any of that. You want it to either be remediated before broken down back to its original state before you purchase, or you want a hefty credit to pay for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it also the article states that homeowners insurance won't cover damage related to permitless work. So you may have even trouble getting homeowners insurance at all. So it's definitely a big problem.
Yeah. Folks who are new to the city come up against this a lot, where they don't really kind of know how layouts should look and whatnot, and they're shown, oh, this is a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, and it's really like a studio that got cut off or something ridiculous like that.
Added, a couple of bedrooms, throw up a couple of temporary walls.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
But again, permits, they're not cheap, but you could get them and save the hassle, down the road. But definitely ask about that when you see something. We also have that here. Garages are made into parts of the house.
Yeah.
Still needs to be permitted. So there are 2 other ones here that may not be necessarily deal breakers. Lead paint. It's not common anymore, but it's been banned since 1978. However, if you have lead paint in the home, there are certified contractors that remove it. Now, the only thing I know about lead paint is what I see on TV watching the Home and Garden TV channel. I just know that, they come in suits, they take it off, and then it's done. Same with like the asbestos, but it can be fixed. I guess it would be a matter of price, right?
It's expensive. Here in the city, my wife and I looked at an apartment last year, a year and a half ago, and lead paint was an issue because of how long ago the building had been built. And there were 2 options, and both didn't sound great to us. And maybe one of our broker friends or someone who's more plugged into the real estate industry can chime in here. But the options were to do a full scrape down, to just get rid of the lead paint, and that is extremely expensive because of the dust that pops up. So in terms of sealing the apartment and the workers and the hazards, it's very expensive to actually just grind out and get rid of the lead paint. Or option B is to paint over it with a sealing paint, which to me, sealing, not sealing like the surface above your head.
Sealant,
correct.
Inside. Yeah.
But to me, that felt like I'm just hiding the problem. I'm not really dealing with it. So neither of those felt great to us, and we didn't move forward with that unit.
and so if that particular apartment has the lead paint, and you wonder if all the other around it have lead paint in the hallways, and it seems. Right. You made a good, a choice based on how much it would cost, and, can it be done? Maybe, but definitely look at the price cost analysis for that one. And then number 2 would be broken, damaged, or missing roof, shingles, or tiles. They're going to tell you in your home inspection what your roof looks like. If you've got another 15, 20 years on your roof, that may be okay. But if they're telling you this roof is about done and you need a new one, I don't know the exact cost of a roof, but just saying that sounds very expensive.
Same here. My experience with townhouses and houses in the outer boroughs, anything where you talk about roof, you start breaking out the calculator.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's even if you were to temporarily patch some of the things, you're going to have to look at the fact that in a few years, you're looking at a new one, and that's expensive.
Cool. All right. So that was the 6 home inspection deal breakers and 2 that may not be. Check it out on our website, anthonyspark.com. Janice, talk to you later.
Talk soon.